Hello, welcome to day 3 of Leeds Trinity's Journalism and Media Week. I'm Catherine Blair, and I'm coming to you live from the television studio. I'm the broadcast journalism program leader, and it fills me with such delight to be welcomed by 5 of our graduates. We've got a great alumni panel here today. Today's talk is called Getting Your Foot in the Door, and we'll meet them in just a minute. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are live on Facebook and YouTube, and also to get your questions in. So if you just pop your questions into the comments section, we'll get to them later in the talk. But I wanted to introduce our panel because they were in much the same place as many of our audience are in right now. They're students, journalism students, and they were dreaming of their first jobs in journalism. And those dreams have become real for all of them. So I'm really delighted to welcome you all. It is fantastic to see you, and I just feel really honored that you've been able to join us today. So rather than me introducing you and getting it all wrong in true journalism tradition, I thought we could go around the room. Tell us how long it's been since you've been here and what you're doing now. And if we could start with you, Abby.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Abby. I'm a live reporter at the Yorkshire Evening Post. I graduated from Leeds Trinity last October, so October 2019, is that right? Yes. So I did the master's degree, the journalism master's degree. I did sociology at uni for my undergrad, and yeah, made the decision to come to Trinity. I actually got my job in the May while I was still doing the June while I was still doing my course. So I juggled full-time work with the master's degree for about 3 months, which was really hard, but worth it in the end. But yeah, I missed it a lot.
Well, welcome. And beside you, we've got Joe Hewlett. Hi, Joe.
How you doing? Hi. Yeah, so I am the Boxing 365 editor for Planet Sport. I've been in this job since January, originally at The Zone, and I graduated in 2018. I originally came to Leeds Trinity because of the likes of Dean and Nigel, who are no longer here, but it's a really good uni, and yeah, so that's a bit about me.
Okay, welcome. And Charlie Russell, welcome to you.
Hey, good morning. I'm the media executive at Lincoln City Football Club. Graduated last summer, so July I think it was. I got that sort of promotion in a way in January. Before that I was a media and marketing assistant, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Really good. I learned a lot at Leeds Trinity from the lecturers, like Joe said. Some great staff there, and you learn a lot throughout the years you're there, and it's a lot of memories for me. So yeah, really happy to be here today.
Very warm welcome to you. Alice Young, one of our 2 very newest graduates. Welcome.
Thank you. So yeah, my name's Alice. I've been on Breakfast Bulletins this morning. I'm a breakfast newsreader for Greatest Hits Radio, and I finished the course this summer. I started working as a newsreader at the very start of the course back in December, and then I've been doing bits since then. But yeah, I'm full-time working for Greatest Hits Radio in Bauer now.
Great to see you. And Grace Pritchard, lovely to see you too.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Grace, and I'm a digital content producer for March for Change, which is a political campaigning organisation, and I work freelance for BBC 5 Live.
Great. Well, welcome to all of you. And a couple of you mentioned all that you had learned at Leeds Trinity, and I kind of wanted to start there really because as lecturers, we always like to think that we have some small part in getting you going in your careers. So if you could indulge me, please. And what was maybe the one thing that you can look back on and say, either that you wish you'd paid more attention to that piece of advice or that bit of learning, or what was the thing that you really took with you into your careers now? And Grace, can we just start with you just to mix things up a bit?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate degree in politics and then came to Leeds Trinity, and really at the start of the course I didn't have much confidence in like my abilities, and doing the course and it just gave me that oomph that I needed to propel me into the industry and put myself out there, which is really the main thing that I would say has like led me to where I am now. So yeah, just equipping me with a lot of confidence.
Okay, great. And Alice, how about you?
I think the main thing that all the lecturers talk about is the kind of attitude that you should have as you go into the industry, and that's the attitude that will get you where you want to go. So I think from the get-go, it's all about looking for how you can get a foot in the door and making sure you make the right first impression with every person that you meet, because you never know where you're going to cross paths with them in the future. So always making a good impression with the people that you do placements with, even if it's dropping them an email or if it's a full couple of weeks placement too.
Okay, thank you. Charlie.
Hey, yeah, you just got something I learned was you just got to work hard if you want something to achieve what you want. You can't just walk into a job like, for example, I did a lot of work placements during my time there, and the placement topic and module was something that I really enjoyed doing. Dave Betts ran it in the final year, and that's what some really good memories from being on placement and learning both on the job and at uni, if that makes sense. So it's combining the two. And another thing was media law. I use it every day and I don't even think about it because it's just so much needed in my role, in my job, that media law is a really important aspect. So that's something I really enjoy paying attention to. And like I say, you just got to have some relationships that as soon as you meet someone, you've got to sort of show them a good impression, as previously said. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Joe, how about you?
I'd probably say the key principles like turning up on time, presented well, dress smart, ready to communicate and be yourself. There's nothing worse than having a student in or having someone in the office and be quiet as a mouse. I think, you need to be yourself, and that's what something uni taught me. And you have to have a niche. Journalism, right now, it's probably the most exciting time to be involved with everything that's going on in the world, even though it's quite scary. So find a niche, and it's all about hard work. I don't believe in talent. I think you can learn a lot, especially with the likes of Catherine, Paul, and all the other lecturers. So ultimately, if you want to make your dreams work, you need to accept that you will be knocked back. You will have to do a lot of free work, but eventually, if you want to reach a goal, it will happen just through hard work.
Great, thank you. And Abby?
Yeah, I think I echo what the others said about it. The course really teaches you to have that drive and really believe in yourself. And I think once you've got that, the rest kind of does fall into place if you're putting the work in. But also on a practical side, from a print perspective, I couldn't do my job every day without media law. And again, it's something that I don't even think about now. I cover breaking news, so I never really know what's going to happen. I never really know what I'm going to have to cover day to day. But having that training, I can't remember which law said what I can and can't do now, but I know what I can and can't do. And I think that was such an important thing that I needed the training for, to be able to do my job.
Great. And if you could just take us through, Abby, sort of like is there a typical day in your job now? Is there, what does it look like your days?
Yeah, so because I'm on the live team, so we kind of run the website. We run breaking news from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. So we work shifts, which we do a week on, week off, different shifts. So yeah, a typical day, I'll come in, we sort the socials, so we sort all the Facebook, Twitter, the posts that are going out on the website. But then we write, and I can write, I think we all write about 10 articles a day. It's really fast paced. We never know what we're going to get. So the actual content that I do is so varied. So I've been out to murder scenes, door knocking in areas. But then I also get to do really cool things like new bar openings, new restaurants. It's so varied, but obviously coronavirus has taken quite a big part of my job now. So in terms of that, we'll run a live blog in the morning, just kind of recapping what the latest news, lockdowns mean for Leeds, particularly how it's affecting people in Leeds. And then we'll also cover the statistics. So we'll look at how many cases are rising in different areas, how many deaths there's sadly been. So yeah, there's in answer to that question, no 2 days are the same at all, which is why I love the job.
Exactly. I think that's why a lot of journalists go into journalism, because of that variedness. Joe, you sort of took your love of boxing. That sort of, probably didn't start at university, but I think you used it in your digital media portfolio as your topic. Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I applied for a lot of jobs with boxing outlets, and I was lucky enough to start off at World Boxing News, and Thankfully, he did pay me a little bit, but it wasn't that much, and it involved going to press conferences, covering fights, interviewing the likes of Eddie Hearn, who, you know, you might see as No Context Hearn online, but he's actually a promoter and he's actually really successful at what he does. And it was pretty cool. It started in around 2018. Never been to an event, never interviewed anyone. 2016. Never done any of that sort of stuff. And the first event I covered was Joshua Klitschko. So I was there for the whole week. Don't get me wrong, I was getting a lot of mega buses and, you know, cheap hotels and everything. But yeah, that's how it started off. And then through Simon Wilkes, who works at Planet Sport, I was then writing for betting firms such as Bet Victor and doing loads of previews. So that's how it all started for me, really.
Okay, yeah, we should maybe expand on that, because you had like awesome commitment. I think you were taking the bus down overnight down to London to show up. I mean, just explain that, because that is like huge commitment to, you know, some students will be having trouble getting up for 9 o'clock lectures, but you kind of really pushed the boat out.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you have to prepare not to sleep, really, or you can sleep on the coaches. So my week would consist of this. I would have my lectures, and then I'd also work 3 days a week, because my loan was rubbish. It didn't cover my rent or anything like that, like a lot of people watching. So I had to make the money doing that. I didn't have a car. It was 2 miles away, so I'd either get the bus or walk. And then the other 2 days, I would go to a press conference. I'd get a mega bus, because quite frankly, it's an absolute disgrace. Like, I train from Leeds to London for a student. It's not good at all unless you book it in advance for about 2 months. So I'd get a mega bus, about £7. The plus side is had portable chargers and free Wi-Fi, and I'd just rot on there for 6 hours, get off at Victoria, get to Greenwich or wherever I needed to get to, and then cover the fight or press conference. I mean, I remember doing back-to-back nights where I got a mega bus there. I covered Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather press conference, and then I'd go back and then get another one like for 12 hours later to cover a Eubank fight. It was exhausting, but you have to think of the ultimate goal, and that's getting paid to do what you love. I never wake up thinking like it's work or hard graft, because I absolutely love it. And the funny thing about the Joshua Klitschko one was, I was working on Saturday night. The fight finished at about 11 or whatever, and obviously it's like one of the best fights of the 21st century. And then wait for Joshua and Klitschko for the post-press conference, which was at like 3 a.m. because I had to do the drugs tests. Then I got back to the hotel, got an expensive Uber for about £30. Then I had to wake up at 7 to then get my coach, to then get back at 2 o'clock, and then I was working at 3 o'clock. So sometimes you have to push the boat out and, you know, drink plenty of coffee.
Good advice. Good advice. And Charlie, you're really like living the dream of a lot of our sports journalism students. A lot of them come with, you know, a love of football, obviously, and now you're actually doing that job.
Yeah, well, especially at the moment, I'm really lucky, obviously, to work in football, because get to watch football as a fan and also for my job. So I really appreciate it, and I really sort of feel privileged to be in that position. But something that obviously coming to uni, everyone wants to cover football, and the majority of people do. So it's like I mentioned before, like a niche is really important. So I focused on Maltese football. Maltese football is what I focused on. So a really random country. I went there on holiday, went to a few games, sort of enjoyed what I saw, and sort of started writing about it. Got to know loads of players, sort of got connected, and then it was one of them things where I just sort of found myself. I was like the go-to for Maltese football in England and in Europe. So it was a bit weird, but yeah, I really enjoyed that, and that was my niche. So that really stands out on my CV, because it sort of separates me from people who may just cover generic Premier League football, because everyone covers that, and you go to obviously the top journalists to read your news on Premier League football. So yeah, that having that niche was really important for me, and it helped me get this job, because there's a lot of Maltese players playing in the non-league game, and then when I was at Halifax on placement, that was obviously non-league, so I knew a lot about non-league and stuff like that. So having that niche really helped me in this job. But yeah, like you say, go back to your question, sort of I'm living the dream, and it's similar. Like I wake up every day, don't feel like I'm going to work, feel like I'm having fun, I guess you could say, like, because it's obviously serious, but it's also I really enjoy what I do.
Great. And Alice, I know that you've just come off an early shift, and it seems to me as a student, you are also waking up incredibly early all the time anyway. So are you just an early bird? Have you found the job that fits your sort of circadian rhythm? Or,
I
are you
think
just
so.
just going for it because it's there?
Yeah, I mean, like Joe said, you've got to really power on caffeine and coffee to get you through. I was doing shifts with a freelance company called Radio News Hub when I was in my degree, and I would be up at 2 a.m. for those, get down and do a full shift, news reading for over 200 stations across the UK, which was really cool. And then get into uni and do a whole afternoon of lectures, finish at 6, and then sometimes do the same thing again the next day. So you really have to push yourself to jump at any chance you can get to make sure that you're chasing your dream. I think that's really important. And I'm living my dream every day. I get to read the news on breakfast radio, which is great. We get lots of flexibility because Bauer has many of the radio stations across the UK. So at the moment, this morning, I was reading the news in Leeds for Greatest Hits Radio West Yorkshire, and also one of our stations up in Cumbria, reading the news for them as well, called CFM. So yeah, I've had a brilliant opportunity. It's definitely a mad time to be coming into the industry, as I'm sure the others will echo. But yeah, covering a global pandemic is a brilliant baptism of fire, I guess, into the industry.
Great. And Grace, I know that we've sort of just kept you going this morning a little bit because you are a lover of the American political system. So you've been up all night following that. Tell us about that and about your typical day.
Yeah, last night was a bit insane, and like everyone else has said, I'm pretty much powered on caffeine. My days, no 2 days are the same, so I spend my days condensing everything that's going on in Parliament and trying to make it into some form of like consumable output. So that's like infographics or audio and video. So I've used a lot of the skills that I learned on my MA for that, or I'm interviewing politicians for podcasts and live streams. And then on the evening, I work for BBC 5 Live doing newspaper reviews for them freelance. So yeah, it's pretty long days and hard graft, but coffee is definitely your friend.
And Grace, I mean, quite modest about things, but you've been a person who's really grasped and made your own luck and made your own opportunities. I remember, sort of this time last year, you obviously we were face to face then, and you were able to speak to the speakers that came to Journalism Week, which is unfortunately not an opportunity for our students now. But just tell us a little bit about grasping some of those opportunities that you have done to make a career, both then, and also now the 5 Live connection.
Yeah, so this time last year at our Journalism Media Week, I met Aylis Hart, who was one of the speakers, and through just making a good connection with her, it's kind of like that knock-on effect. I then got introduced to other people. She worked for Panorama, and it was just, yeah, word of mouth and making sure you really like harvest those connections and like stay on top of those relationships and make a good impression, and you can make your own luck. Like a lot of things that have happened for me have even come through Twitter, which it seems so weird, but like you can make connections with journalists through that, and then if they see your work and they like it, that's how I ended up doing a guest edit on 5 Live. So yeah, it's a bit crazy.
Great. And when you say that you sort of made connections with Aylis when you were at Journalism Week last, I mean, it was a little bit more than that, because didn't you volunteer to help get her to the train station?
No, we just ended up on the same bus.
Just ended up on the same train.
It was literally just luck. Yeah, it was just luck.
Okay. Right. So train travel can be beneficial.
Yeah.
And Alice, do you think there was like a sliding doors moment where if you hadn't sort of grasped an opportunity, you wouldn't be where you are now? Was there a moment that you sort of made a decision and that sort of got you your position now, do you think?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you have to kind of make priorities. At some stage, you've got to kind of call it whether you focus on one thing or the other. And what I tried to do throughout the masters was really push to focus on work placements, which kind of really worked in my favour when all of our work placements came to a standstill with the pandemic. So I know lots of people have been doing virtual placements, which has been a brilliant alternative, and many news operations are working remotely at the moment anyway, so that's given that kind of platform. But for me, I had already worked for kind of 3 different companies by the time the lockdown kicked in March, so that stood me in really good stead. There was an opening, and I managed to talk myself into getting a staff contract with Bauer, so it was brilliant. And I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't put that graft in, like everybody's talking about now.
And Charlie, was it the same sort of thing for you, just hard work, or was there like a moment that you swung it, or you realized that you needed to go one way or the other?
Yeah, I think it's sort of echoing what's been said. It's one of them we've sort of got to realize where you want to focus on, like really getting into your career and getting into that industry, or if you want to, I don't know, take another path. But for me, it was always about getting into the industry and getting into the position I wanted. I did placements with newspapers, radio companies. Literally, I did the whole board magazines, and then I did club media, like I said, with Halifax, where it all started. Went there on an initial week, a week placement, and then it sort of carried on for another season. I did about a season and a half, did a whole pre-season there. So I spent a lot of time at Halifax and learned a lot there. It was a really good sort of starting point, I guess, in club media for me. I'd not really done anything else with a football club before, so it was a really good starting point. And we had a successful season. We won the National League North playoffs, so really successful first start, and really enjoyed that. And then it was just by luck, really, because I'm from Lincoln, so one of someone I knew sort of was at Lincoln City Football Club, and I sort of said, "Oh, is there any placements going?" And they said, "Send this email in." So I emailed in, and the media manager actually knew the media manager at Halifax, so I got a reference from there. And Kelly at Halifax, I don't think she's there anymore. She sort of couldn't speak highly enough of me, which I really appreciated and was really grateful for. And then I went to Lincoln on like a week placement, and I've never really left since then. So I'm becoming part of the furniture, I guess.
Great. And Joe, was it a similar thing for you as well? Oh, we're just having trouble hearing you. Can we try again?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, it's coming through a little bit. Yeah.
All right, okay. Sorry, what was the question? It broke up.
Yeah, I was just asking, was there a moment that, in order to get the job that you've got, was it sort of one of those sliding doors moment? Do you go left? Do you go right, sort of thing? Or was it just a gradual putting in the hard work and kind of getting to where you are now?
It was a mixture of both, really. It was quite funny. So when I left uni, I joined DAZN. So that's an American streaming service. We have offices based in Leeds, London, New York, Tokyo. So I got the job in Leeds, worked out in New York as well for a little bit. So that was pretty cool. So that was through hard work, that was, but also because of my niche with boxing and the work I'd put in beforehand during at uni. So my name was kind of out there because I had a few fighters following me and sharing my work, and they got in touch with me about the role. However, like during uni, I obviously made contact with Simon Wilkes, and he's like one of the main guys at Planet Sports. So we've always like had a good friendship and always been in touch about work and everything like that. So probably around December time, I fancied the change. I knew I weren't gonna go up the ranks within the next year or two, and I wanted to get back to writing features, and not just about fights and someone saying I'm going to beat you and I'm going to knock you out and all that sort of crap. So I wanted to write about features that included the history of black fighters. Boxing is a diverse sport, so there's a lot of things going on in livelihoods. So he gave me a text in December, and he was like, listen, we're looking at building the boxing365.com website. Do you want to be the editor? And after a 20-minute conversation, I was all in.
Excellent. And I guess really the same question to you, Abby. You got your job before you even graduated, so you were juggling. But talk us through that process of getting your foot in the door for that.
Yeah, so I think the knock-on effect that led to me getting my job was actually Journalism Week. So it would have been 2 years ago that I was here, and obviously it was kind of in lectures then. So during Journalism Week, I know, again, you can't do this now, but I went up to every speaker afterwards, just introduced myself, asked a question. I didn't directly ask for work experience. I think I did with a couple, but others I just said, do you have any tips? And just getting your name out there is really helpful. So Hannah, who was then editor of the YEP, did a talk, and I went up to her afterwards and said, have you got any tips? I think I worded it like, have you got any tips for getting work experience? And she was like, well, we actually offer work experience. Do you want to come for a week? So I booked that in for the following June. But meanwhile, like Alice, I wanted to get in as many placements as I can. So I did a couple of placements before the period that we have in our masters from the last 3 months. And then I managed to, just by introducing myself again, hammering people on Twitter a little bit politely, I'd managed to set up 3 months of back-to-back work placements during that last period of the course. And the Yorkshire Evening Post was my first week. So I went on the first week, but I think, again, like that break came, but also there was a lot of hard work that came in the background. So alongside it, I was following everyone from the Yorkshire Evening Post and Leeds Live on Twitter. I was kind of liking their stuff. I sent in a couple of stories to the YEP, and it just helps to get your name out there a bit more, and they know who you are. So you're always going to be kind of the first person they contact for work experience if they're aware of you. So that had gone on in the background, and I went for the work experience. I came with kind of loads of ideas that I'd already set up, which I think is quite a good tip. So it is good to come with ideas, but also maybe set up some interviews, do some interviews beforehand if you have the chance, and that will really make you stand out. So I did that for the week. I was then on the 4th day offered a 3-month paid placement. I had to bring up all the other places and cancel my work experience there. And actually the following week, again, I was really fortunate that the live reporter position had just come up, just been approved. So Hannah, who was then editor, actually rang me and offered me the job the following week, and then I've not left.
Excellent. And can you look back over the last sort of year and a half, 2 years, and is there a particular story that you're most proud of, or what was the best one that you covered, Abby?
Yeah, so it's actually a recent campaign, so a series of stories that I've been doing. So my master's degree, I looked at social media abuse aimed at female journalists particularly. And it was something that after that I was really passionate about. I was also quite aware of myself that I might experience this, but I really wanted to make some change. So my editor, Laura Collins, set up a campaign. It's called the Call It Out campaign. And as part of that campaign, we're trying really hard to kind of take internal actions to root out racism particularly, but other forms of abuse from our pages, which is something that I've personally found quite difficult, being quite open about that in the job. So we're taking some real practical actions, but alongside that, we are writing lots of stories, looking at how social media abuse and online abuse impacts people across Leeds and West Yorkshire. So as part of that, I've spoken to MPs, I've spoken to children and young people, the founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, and at the minute I'm working on a piece about Islamophobic abuse online. So it's been amazing to it's really sad covering it, but it's been amazing to really get to the heart of the issue and see how it affects all kinds of people from all walks of life. And I'm really proud. I think the most proud moment for me was last month, MP Holly Lynch, who's the MP for Halifax. She actually mentioned our campaign in Parliament. So it was around introducing legislation on online harm, so that will give more accountability to social media platforms. So she mentioned our campaign and our work, and I think that was my proudest moment, knowing that something I've been doing and working really hard on might actually hopefully have an effect in law and hopefully change people's lives.
Excellent. And Joe, a similar thing for you. Is there a standout event that you've covered, or a standout piece of work?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo those comments, basically sport, obviously I've written a lot about results and, interviewed a lot of fighters and promoters, but boxing as well has a role and responsibility to share stories. So a piece that I'm particularly proud of, I've worked on, it's a big 2,000 word piece, which I did last year actually. It's about black fighters, and Jack Johnson, he was the first black heavyweight world champion. He wasn't allowed to fight for the title because of his colour. He could only fight for the coloured title. Absolutely disgraceful. But anyways, he eventually fought someone because the Australian promoter in New York paid enough money for the fight to happen. And then he knocked him out, and then he had a 7-year reign. Really big piece, really proud of it. It just goes through the history of black fighters and what they fought for. And if you look at the history of boxing, the best fighters are the black fighters. And, they have an amazing history in boxing, and I'm going to continue to celebrate their uniqueness in the sport. Yes, but in terms of events, I mean, it has to be Klitschko Joshua. So obviously a Titanic fight, you think Joshua's going to win, then he gets knocked down. So I'm doing like a live blog report, and then I have to kind of like do it all in one. So I'm doing a live report, and then the result finishes in round 11. You can't really, you enjoy it, you're amazed, but you have deadlines to meet. And, I had to bang out 1,000 words in 20 minutes. Thankfully, it all made sense. And then at the post press conference, laptop on my lap, no tables or anything, just on a chair. I'm typing away, and then someone sits next to me, and his leg goes over mine. I'm like, I really hate people who invade my leg room. But anyways, I turn around, and it's Vladimir Klitschko's brother, Vitaly. So I weren't going to say anything to him. I went, "Oh, you're right," and then I realised you're not all right. Your brother just got knocked out. But yeah, so I then done a report on that and interviewed Anthony and Eddie and everything like that. So it was a real proud moment for me, that.
Amazing. And Charlie, how about you?
Well, we've had some really good fixtures at Lincoln, like in recent years. So obviously we've won the League Two title, which although we lost to Colchester, the final day on the season where we'd won the promotion and everything before, but it was the final day of the season, and like I said, despite losing, it was just a really good day because everyone was buzzing to go up. Everyone's in a really good mood. Obviously, the fans are just. It was pandemonium. It was crazy. It was just a really, really good weekend, even because we had an awards show like that afternoon and stuff like that in the Sunday and stuff like that. But we've been lucky to have some really good cup draws as well. So we played Everton twice in the last 2 years, I think, and one of them was at Goodison, one of them was at LNR Stadium, and we had Liverpool this year as well. But it was a real shame that obviously no fans being in. So the Liverpool game was really interesting to cover, although it was live on Sky and everything like that. And although the result didn't go our way, obviously they're Premier League champions, so it's to be expected. But yeah, some really, really good sort of memories from watching some really talented footballers, and then being able to report on them, cover them, obviously live on Twitter, match reports, and posting pre-match interviews. Because on a match day, when we've got a big game like that, obviously the whole build-up's a really big part of it. So the build-up to FA Cup and League Cup games I really enjoy that side of things, and sort of the media relations side of it when we've got BBC obviously coming in, Sky coming in, everyone like that. So yeah, there's been a lot of memories to be fair in a short, I guess, 2 years, I think, 2.5 years, whatever I've been there. So a lot of memories. Hopefully it continues. I'm hoping for a nice little playoff finish this year. It'd be nice.
And have you got used to having the fake crowd sound at the games now?
Oh well, we have iFollow. So iFollow is what our supporters watch the game on live. They pay £10 so they can watch the game. And we don't actually have the sound on, so the fans just get the core emotion of the players on the pitch and the staff. And personally, I prefer that side of things because the fake crowd sound, it just didn't for me. When I watch, for example, I'm a Spurs fan, so when I watch Tottenham on telly, I have the stadium noise on. So it's not for me. But like I said, our fans only have the option to have the stadium sound and the commentary. So I think it's probably better, to be fair, because it feels like you actually get to know what the players are saying to each other. You feel the emotion on the pitch and what the gaffer's got to say and stuff like that. So I think it's probably better not having the crowd noise on when watching. But obviously, football's it's a fans' game, isn't it? Everyone wants to be at a football game. It's the biggest thing that my mates have missed over lockdown, all this sort of stuff. So hopefully, in the new year and towards the end of the season, we'll get some fans back. But it's not looking too likely, unfortunately, at the minute. But the service is there, like so with iFollow, that's just another part of my job. Obviously, it's not all about the media relations and the content creation. We've got a service to provide for our fans so they can watch a game still, like season ticket holders and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So really, really varied.
So I think my phone was ringing then, so I'll definitely mute that.
Alice. So I was saying earlier, I wake up to you every morning, pretty well, giving me the news. Has there been a standout day?
I mean, the news has been so busy all summer with the pandemic, and I'm surprised nobody has said coronavirus yet, so I'll take that one. Yeah, covering coronavirus every day, I think all journalists can agree it's incredibly intense, and I think it's good for journalists to recognise it's really tough reporting on coronavirus every day as well. Kind of coming in and that's your main story. That's you're often top of the bulletin is always about coronavirus. So it's the way that we've covered it as a local news station, I think has been really special. We've spoken to people working on intensive care units. We've spoken to businesses who've completely crumbled in the pandemic, people who've lost their family. And I think the way that you cover coronavirus is really important for the listener as well. Radio plays a huge part in people's life, being kind of a friend and someone to listen to and not to feel too overwhelmed with the news. Obviously, everyone's kind of joking about wanting to turn Twitter off and turn the news off this week. And I think our role there is to make sure we're looking at real people covering real stories, and making our listeners feel valued and also not too overwhelmed in this crazy world that we're all living in at the moment.
Absolutely. And Grace, I mean, one of the standout moments for me as a lecturer was just listening to you on 5 Live. Has that been your standout moment, or is there another one you would point to?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the piece that I wrote leading to me ending up on the guest edit was probably like my standout piece of work that I've done, and I was really proud of it, and I kind of like pushed myself to open myself up more personally to write that. And then off the back of the guest edit, being offered the opportunity for a podcast series with the BBC has got to be like one of my major standout moments.
And we should tell people who didn't listen to it a little bit about that, because tell us a little bit more about that article.
Yeah, so I wrote an opinion piece for Yorkshire Bylines, which is a digital online newspaper, which I think has now got a working relationship with the uni. And yeah, I wrote that about like my experience of being like a working class girl and going to uni, and just that whole idea of like meritocracy. And then it got picked up by Nihal Afanyuke, who's one of the presenters on 5 Live. It's all kind of snowballed from there, really.
Fantastic. Okay, I've been putting it off, but we are going to get to the questions now, and we're going to start with a question from Molly Paul. And she says, good morning. How do you find new ways to create current news abiding by the pandemic regulations? And has COVID-19 changed your work ethic at all? Who wants to jump in on that one?
Oh, I think I'll be honest with that one and say, I think for all of us journalists, it probably has made us a bit exhausted at times. So in a way, it does affect you. It is difficult some days to keep going when you're writing what's quite oppressive and what, like Alice said, is really affecting the lives of so many people and devastating lives. And in terms of, how we keep going with it, I think my kind of day-to-day role hasn't changed too much because I'm on the digital team. So we've just taken everything home. But obviously in a practical sense now, if we go out on jobs, we have to wear our masks constantly. But I think there are ways to kind of keep doing all the things you were before. It's just being a little bit more careful. But to be honest, it does have an effect on you. And I think it's really important, especially for students like just starting in the industry, to make sure you talk about it and kind of say when you're having a bit of a crap day, and like lean on the people around you, because it is hard sometimes.
Great. Okay, I think we've got some more questions coming in as well. Demea asks, what is one piece of advice that you would love to give to yourself when you were in first year? And what advice would you give to first year students? Demea is one of our first year broadcast students.
I'll have to jump on that one. Oh, sorry. You can go.
Hi,
You go.
Demea.
No, you go. You go.
Oh, no,
you
you go.
Okay, Charlie, we'll start with you. Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
Right. So I'll jump in. So yeah, in first year, I felt that it's sort of a year that you've got to sort of get to know yourself in a way. I know that sounds a bit cliche and all that, but obviously you've got your early starts and stuff like that. So time management is really, really key. And obviously that you can then like use that in the workplace, because obviously I've got deadlines to meet, and I'm sure everyone else in the call does as well. So using first year as sort of like I say, getting to know yourself, work out sort of what you want. Obviously you've got 2 more years ahead of you, so it's not like the case of you have to know what career or what sort of industry into like industry and media you want to go into or whatever. So yeah, just get to learn yourself, get to know the lecturers as well. Like something I found was all the lecturers and staff were really, really helpful and like really open and really like sort of I don't know, like caring in a way. Like they look out for you. And Dave Betts was someone that I can't speak highly enough of. Like he just always looked out for me. He was like someone that I'd be able to go to with advice. He's got experience with Sky and stuff like that. So he's a really, really good like contact I had at uni, and I still speak to him now on LinkedIn and stuff like that. So yeah, it's use the lecturers as more than seeing them on that 2 hours you see them, or like in that call what you'll be on now. So yeah, use them as like, I don't know, a mentor in a way, sort of like pick their brains and see what their experience was like and what sort of tips they have for you. And back to what I said, yeah, time management's key. So just work hard, play hard. That's what I did in first year, and it's paid off for me now. And I made some memories from it.
Great advice. And Alice, would you agree with that, or have you got another piece of advice?
Completely. I mean, I just echo exactly what Charlie said. I think it's really important to kind of believe in yourself as well, and never be afraid of really going after your dream. I know that sounds crazy and very cliche, but really, if you have a place that you want to be, there will be a path to get you there. So really just look at what goals you want to achieve, and you'll get there if you speak to the right people and you just jump. Never say no to opportunities.
Okay, thank you. We've got another question. Brandon Smith asks, this is a question for Joe. Hi, Joe. As someone potentially wanting to go into the boxing world themselves, what's the main piece of advice you would give me in order to get my foot in the door?
Well, hi, Brandon. Hope you're good. My advice would be just be relentless in your work. We've spoken about work ethic a lot, and there's no real secret. We've got laptops. We're not in the 80s or 90s. We have internet and all that. So you need to do your research. Once you've found your niche, which is boxing, I think you need to go on social media. Social media is the best way to connect with people. They have the managers on there. Sometimes their DMs are open. There'll be websites with emails, and it's all about getting in touch. However, I kind of I ain't gonna lie, I had a quick rise. Normally you do the amateurs or you do low level fighters, and then you interview the elites and all that sort of stuff. I did get lucky in that aspect. But sometimes you have to start from the bottom and earn the trust from the rising stars. So I'd definitely say try to get some experience, because every boxing website right now, I guarantee, is struggling at the minute with the pandemic, especially. I mean, the fights are back, but we haven't had many big fights apart from Lopez Lomachenko. So get in touch with outlets, start writing. If you haven't got a WordPress website, make one and just start writing. I know right now, everyone in first year, especially, right, you're in lockdown. You probably, some of you probably don't know if you've got proper mates there yet or whatever. Struggling with motivation, probably having a beer to try and get over it. I'll be doing the same. I did before that anyways, and it won't help. What I would say is, after this, for yourself, Brandon, and whoever else who wanted to ask that question, after this, set a list, get a notepad out, write the things you want to do, and start from there, and just start writing.
Okay, really good advice. I think we've got time for another question. This one's from Halima, and she asks, how do you find a balance in your news consumption, as you are the ones delivering it and at the forefront?
I don't mind answering that one again from a football point of view, if you don't want to know that. So obviously, as a media executive, my sort of role can vary from the media relationships to the sort of media content. So our website content is key to deliver to our fans. So in a way, it helps, because as a football fan myself, I know what I want to read. So certain interviews and stuff like that, sort of like from my job sort of side of things, help because I know what the fans want to know. But back to your question is media consumption. So for myself, obviously on Saturdays I'm working, so I can't actually watch football myself and sort of read football news myself. So I make sure that Sunday and like in the evenings in the week when I'm not working, I can settle down, watch a few games on telly, and be able to like sort of go through Twitter. Obviously, Twitter's a really useful source in terms of providing news and sort of getting news. You've got to obviously be careful with like what sort of sources you read, but that's what following's for. So you follow the people you trust. So I feel that Twitter is a really good way sort of that I consume my football news, and obviously you've got apps like The Athletic and stuff like that. So from a sports side of thing and a football side of thing, I use social media like constantly. Like the second I get back from work, I'm on my phone, obviously. If I've got 5 minutes spare in the gym, I'm on my phone seeing what's happening on Twitter. So, and that comes from who I'm following. So the people I want to sort of hear the news about, the consumption that I have from that comes through social media, and especially Twitter.
So create your own news stream. Really great advice. And I just wanted to remind all our viewers and all our panelists as well that actually we are on Yorkshire Voices covering all these talks, including yours. So look, follow us. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we've got a website running. So please follow us and like us and all the rest of it and get our message out there. But I really couldn't thank you all enough because it's been great listening to you. I really wish we had a lot more time to speak to all of you. I'm sure our viewers will be thinking the same thing, but you all know now that everyone's available through Twitter. So perhaps you might get a few questions coming to you as well. It's been great to see you all again and really nice to speak to you. And thank you so much for being so inspirational to our students now. I just want to remind everyone also that coming up at 11 o'clock, we've got the great Jane Garvey, BBC Radio's Women's Hour. So get your questions ready for that. And for now, I'll say goodbye and thanks for joining us.
No, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.